Discover your inner goddess and live up to your highest value and most abundant potential. Welcome to Grateful Goddesses, a podcast that empowers you to unleash your inner goddess and take the leap of faith to live your best life. Your guide, Karen Pulver, joins her fellow goddesses in soulful conversations about gratitude, personal growth, authentic living, and a bevy of topics affecting women today. Let's start the show with your host, Karen Pulver.
Today, we are honored to have Samantha Ettus as our guest. Samantha is the founder of the New Voices 2024 campaign, a remarkable initiative that aims to combat anti-Semitism and mobilize the Jewish community. Previously, Samantha was known for her insights on the future of work as a speaker, author, and TV contributor. Samantha found herself unexpectedly transitioning into a Jewish activist role after October 7th. Her dedication to address rising anti-Semitism led her to launch this New Voices campaign, which features a diverse array of celebrities and influencers, both Jewish and non-Jewish, including names like Cindy Crawford and Kevin Neal. Through a rapidly growing Instagram account, the campaign has reached millions of people globally. Today, Samantha joins us to discuss the campaign and the importance of using our voices to speak out against anti-Semitism. Welcome to the show, Samantha. Welcome, everyone, to Grateful Goddesses 2024. My name is Karen Pulver, and I am a proud Jewish woman. And it's a new year with new voices, and I stand against anti-Semitism. Now, that sentence was not so hard for me to say, but for some individuals, it is difficult to say. And we're going to talk with the founder of New Voices 2024, Samantha Ettus, in a moment about this campaign, this initiative, as well as perhaps some of the difficulties that some of the celebrities might be having to join in on this campaign, anti-Semitism, why it's so important for us to use our voices, no matter how small or how big, to speak up against it. Right behind me, I have photos of all the celebrities and influencers so far that have joined in this campaign. And I'm hoping, Samantha, that I can fill up my whole bookcase with them.
Oh my gosh, I hope so too. Karen, I love it. That's so awesome that you did that. That's really, really cool.
I really I want this to be a positive, let's use our voices. This is really a disturbing topic that some people are not doing this. So can you please just share with us about your campaign? What motivated you to start it? How is it going? I mean, it looks fantastic, but you also mentioned the other day that you had some people not want to join it.
Yeah, so I'll just sort of back up really briefly. I, was not a Jewish activist until October 8th, basically. On October 7th was my son's bar mitzvah. And we didn't really have a sense then of the gravity of what had happened. And then it wasn't until really a couple of days later that it was so shocking. And so on October 8th, I started posting. I've actually never posted my son's bar mitzvah yet, because I went from posting about work-life balance and how to get a 25th hour in your day and my favorite, new outfit, to realizing that all that stuff seemed so frivolous given what was happening. And so I figured, okay, after a few days, I'll go back to my old content. And that just never happened, because I felt like so few people were speaking out. And I had a platform, and it was a nice size platform. And I felt like, okay, I should be using this for good. And I've never turned back. So, for me, it was so, I guess, internal and urgent that I speak out for the Jewish people and speak out for Israel. And frankly, I never fully understood what it meant to be a Zionist before. I think that when you live in the diaspora, you're kind of protected, and almost, we just have benefited so much from previous generations speaking out that we have not felt like we needed to. So cut to, it's December. I've now been doing this for a couple of months, and I was flying with my family on a family vacation. And suddenly it occurred to me, like, why aren't celebrities speaking out? Maybe it's because they don't have a soft landing, like a place where it's just really easy to speak out. And so that was how 2024 New Voices launched. I just started contacting celebrities directly, friends of friends, various ways, and just got a few people on board. And then once you get a couple, you can get more. And originally I thought it was going to be a 2-week campaign, but here we are, months later, and we're still going.
That's incredible. Now, you mentioned yesterday, because I follow you, and that's how I stumbled across you, was because of your Israeli advocacy. And as another proud Jewish woman, I was afraid, and I mentioned this to Alyssa, to speak out. I was not wearing any of my jewelry. I was not wearing, I was thinking about taking down my mezuzah.
Yeah.
And you, I have to thank as one of the many powerful, brave women, Jewish women, who helped inspire me to not do that and to use my voice. And this Grateful Goddess platform, it might be small, but it's mighty. So we might reach even one person that might not be listening to the Jewish podcasts, right?
Yeah.
And some people have already, since an interview I did with 2 other Israeli activists, they've stopped following me. And I'm actually really happy about that, because I don't want people that are not aligned with our values. And I
Yeah.
want people who are. So can you tell us a bit about those celebrities? You mentioned this yesterday, that said no. And then, like, what does that mean? Because anti-Semitism, how can you say no to that? What does that mean? Like, they don't like Jews, or are they just ignorant, or what?
I mean, I like to think it's more ignorance than anything. I think that the other side, which is the pro-Hamas side, I guess, has politicized even Jewish hate, right? And so one of the things I've been very cognizant of is when we have celebrities who join the 2024 New Voices campaign, I don't allow them to mention Israel, because even though we all know that these things are intertwined, it's very hard for a celebrity who is worried about their putting dinner on the table for their family, because their careers go in these ebbs and flows, and they're worried about losing jobs. And so I've assured them that our campaign is not political. And so as part of that, like, I'll get a lot of direct messages from people saying, I really wish these celebrities would talk about Israel. Well, we would not get half the celebrities to speak up if we did talk about Israel. So right now, let's just focus on Jewish hate. I think, to back up, we have 4 wars we're fighting. We're fighting the war to get the hostages returned. We're fighting the war against propaganda, which we're obviously losing. We're fighting the war against Hamas, and then we're fighting anti-Semitism in the diaspora. So I think this campaign specifically hits number 4. And when you try to do everything, you fail. So I'm very specific. Like, we're just creating a very easy space for people to say, I am so-and-so, and I stand against anti-Semitism, or I stand against Jewish hate. Say it however you'd like to say it. And that's it. And you don't have to say more if you don't want. You can if you want. You don't have to. Now, there are some people, and again, to your point, Karen, like, I think this is ignorance, who will say, I just don't want to take sides. And, I think, so what is the other side of Jewish hate? It's you're for Jewish hate. It's so absurd if you think of it that way. Or someone will say, I have to talk to my agent and get permission. And you're like, would you have to ask your agent for permission to speak out against Asian hate or any other kind of hate against the LGBTQ community? Like, no. And so why are you asking permission to say, I'm against hating Jewish people? And when you say it that way, it's harder for people to stand their ground. So I know that, as you said, Karen, like, you've lost some followers. Listen, I've lost some relationships over this.
No, me too.
But,
Absolutely.
I think that we are all better off, right? Because it's like, you want to know where your friends stand. And this was a wake-up call for all of us, especially in the Western world. I think that Israelis were much more aware of all of these issues before we were. And I think that, if anything, like, as a community, we are so much stronger. Think of all the new relationships. I didn't know you, Karen. Think of all the new relationships that you have formed since October 7th. And those more than make up for the ones you've lost since October 7th. And by shedding some of these friends who were anti-Semitic or just don't want to be political, you are making room for new relationships.
And I appreciate that. And that's how I connected with you. And I so appreciate that you answered when I reached out. And one of the things that I did was, my daughter texted me. She's away at college. She's at Michigan. And she texted me when she was in a class. And I mean, you can imagine as a mother, you have children, we all have children, and it's 4:30 in the afternoon, and she says, Mom, I'm scared. They're banging on the door, screaming, etc., the slogans. And what should I do? And I was frozen, and I'm texting her back and forth. I called the dean, and I know, I sent this to you. I couldn't believe the response. And Alyssa, I know, was going to ask more about colleges, but like, to be a mother and to receive that kind of text, that is blatant anti-Semitism. It's not.
Yeah. I had to happen to be an empty nester now, but my son just graduated from college this past weekend. A bunch of his friends were in from New York, here in Chicago, and we were talking about it. And really the overwhelming sense was relief that they're not on a college campus right now, that they may be out living in big cities like New York, LA, Chicago, Dallas. And it's not that they're, immune to anti-Semitism, defacing of Jewish owned businesses or synagogues, but being on a college campus, there's a whole other heightened level of fear, I think, among college students. And I know, Samantha, you've talked about this, on news programs, et cetera, but, it is insane to me what is happening on college campuses. I went to Penn. I know you went to Harvard, those two in particular, Michigan. We're talking about three schools right now that have had an enormous amount of attention thrown at them, negative attention, because of the way that they've mishandled all of these acts of blatant anti-Semitism and the fear of by administrators of speaking out. Even now, the fear of prosecuting pro-Palestinian protesters who have engaged in words of hate speech, under the guise of free speech, of course, but hate speech. And now we're coming after the administrators for not even prosecuting these people. Anyway, I think there is a question there, but it is really about fear, right? It's fear among us living in big cities. It's fear among college students. It's fear, and I guess you could imagine in that light, some people being afraid to speak out, whether it's for your campaign or others, even though it shouldn't be hard to say that they stand against anti-Semitism, but it is this sort of overarching fear that I'm really grappling with. How do we get people to use that as a way to embolden them to act, to speak, and not just the Jewish community, but everybody? Because as you said, they wouldn't be afraid to say, I stand against anti-Asian or anti any other marginalized group, in our history. So what do we do about this fear?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, you said it really well and laid out the situation really well. I think we keep being stunned, right? Like every day, oh my gosh, this kosher restaurant was destroyed overnight in New York. Like, it never ends, and we're playing whack-a-mole and we're losing because it's too many things. It's Nordstrom's and Tyson's Corner 2 days ago. It's endless, right? And so I think that we have to have a zero tolerance policy on all college campuses, on all corporations. I mean, these are private institutions. These are institutions that are private, and even University of Michigan, they receive so much public funding. The private ones receive public funding. We need to say we cut off public funding unless you have a zero tolerance policy for anti-Semitism. You would never tolerate this for any other ethnic group. And when you were allowing this, I remember, Karen, when you sent that to me, you were allowing it in your libraries, in your outside of the classrooms, inside, indoors.
I'm sorry for interrupting. I couldn't believe it. When I called the dean's office, the person said, well, the dean is with the group. I said, excuse me? And then, well, to make sure it doesn't get violent, and if this is free speech, and only if it's disrupting the classroom. I said, well, my daughter is freaking out.
Right.
She's supposed to do a presentation. You think she
by the way, it's also like, disruption means a lot of things, right? If you are sitting there worried for your safety, you're not able to concentrate in class. You're not able to, this is permeated beyond what is acceptable. So whether it's a private institution or a public institution, we need a zero tolerance policy for it. So I think that it makes it really easy when you have a moral compass where you're like, we don't tolerate anything that makes our students feel unsafe. That should be the bar, right? And that should be the bar at every single university. And in fact, I was just at an event with a Stand With Us, the co-founder of Stand With Us, and I said to him, "Oh, my daughter is going to, a college that seems really good about what's been going on with the pro-Palestinian stuff, and I'm so happy." And he's like, "It's good until it's not." Mm-hmm. And I think that unfortunately that's where we're at. It's like one group and then one bad take on it, or it's like you can't give an inch because then it gives more. And well, last time you allowed this. And I think when you have that mentality of zero tolerance, and by the way, I think as parents, we need to have a zero tolerance policy for it. And I think what you did, Karen, calling the school right away, every parent who sees anything like this needs to call and contact every administrator right away. We are the first line of defense if the administration is not behaving correctly.
Bothering other mothers, other parents, because and kind of like what people have done on Instagram, like post this, pass it along, more parents. Like, I guess that's the message, right?
Well, I mean, galvanizing all of us. And that's, I do a ton of public speaking, and post October 7th, I called my agent and said, I'm not doing any more speaking for anything other than Jewish, audiences and Jewish topics, which obviously made him kind of unhappy. But I just feel like right now, this is the urgent topic of our time. And this is what needs attention. And the thing I talk a lot about is how to unleash your inner activism, because a lot of people think that you need a really big following or you need to really be active on social media to make a difference, and you don't. And I think that's what's so important is right now, every single one of us, if you have an hour a week or if you have 20 hours a week, we need every single one of us to do something. It could literally be a minute a day where you're writing a letter. But it has to be something. You can't stay silent. This is a moment in time that requires all of us. There's only 15 million of us in the world, and it requires every single one of us to step up, because this is what it was like pre-Holocaust. This is a very terrifying time, but it's also a time for us to be brave and speak out. And it can't just be a few of us. It has to be all of us.
And our children as well. And, our parents, I feel that, social media can be very self-reinforcing. My social media is filled with, Jewish activists and Michael Rappaport and, all of these wonderful people.
That was great. I really wanted to thank her for that insightful conversation. I love that you touched on those points, Alyssa, especially about like a lot of those people that are in the middle, how to deal with that. Hopefully if you're listening to this and you're in the middle, how can you not stand up to hate? But I started thinking, do people not know the definition of anti-Semitism, do you think?
I think Samantha raises a great point, which is that people have conflated this idea of being pro or even sympathetic to Jewish people. And I would therefore then be supporting the Israeli government's every move in this war against Hamas. And it doesn't matter that it's a terrorist organization. It doesn't matter how they treat their people. It is all about, what we see on the news and what we see in social media and what we see out there, which is, what is the plight of the Gazan people? And it is not that, as somebody said to me or I read somewhere the other day, it's, you can be aligned with Jews. You can like Jews. You can be whatever the opposite of anti-Semitic is, pro the Jewish people and against Netanyahu or the Israeli government or this move or that move or this invasion or that in Rafah or, in the South. It doesn't have to be the same thing. And I think people fear, take some insert name of silent celebrity here with a gigantic follower. Let's say Taylor Swift, right? You don't have to agree with everything that the state of Israel is doing, and that to be pro the Jewish people. And that is why Samantha, rightly so, has taken the political component out of the campaign.
Taylor Swift's bodyguard is an
yes.
But forget Israel.
I know.
The fact that her bodyguard is Jewish and was her bodyguard, you would think there would be some kind of friendship relationship. You would think she would support being against anti-Semitism. It just is unfathomable for me to understand. I just don't understand it. But maybe education and awareness and us being proud and, wearing our Mogen David, wearing, We Will Dance Again, talking about this, posting, anything you can do. If any of you have any questions out there and you don't know how to stand up, you don't know how to use your voice, you can always contact me, Karen@gratefulgoddesses.com. And just speak, just say it. I mean, the more of us together combating this hatred, the easier it gets. It's kind of like when you're in school and everyone's quiet and the teacher asks a question and everyone's quiet and then one person, bravely puts their hand up and then there's a whole conversation, right? And I think that we all need to help each other. So I wanted to close with, I believe it's crucial to emphasize the power of using our voices, whether they are loud or soft, to advocate for peace and stand up to hatred. It is imperative to educate and raise awareness about the meaning and implications of anti-Semitism and to unite with non-Jewish allies in the fight against it. Together, by standing up against anti-Semitism and promoting understanding and acceptance, we can strive towards a world of peace and love for all. So, Alyssa, it's a new year, New Voices 2024. What would you like to say?
I guess I would like to say, if we could all just have 1 ounce of the energy and the fervor that Samantha Ettus has shown us, I think we would all be in a very different place right now. I think this is all a chance for us to, use our voice in small ways, in ideally bigger ways, to talk, to educate, to have these conversations. Let's hope that by the end of 2024, we're in a very different place.
I hope so too. Like I said, I hope that this is filled with celebrities and influencers, as well as just everyday people, right? You and I. So thank you, Alyssa, for using your voice.
Thank you.
Up next, favorite things. Opening up to happiness and joy.
I would like to share some of my favorite things right now. As I mentioned on a past episode, I've been wearing my Star of David around town, and I've been proudly wearing it. At first, I was putting it under my shirt because I was scared, and honestly, every now and then I do that, but more and more I'm wearing it out and proud. And this dog tag I just received, where it says, "We Will Dance Again" in the Nova 7/10/23. And I do believe that the Jewish people, the Israeli people, will dance again and they will rebuild. And it's my hope and prayer that we will continue to use our voices to stand up against hatred. And also that by the time this episode is released, that all of the hostages are released. Thank you for using your voice today.
Unleashed your inner goddess yet? Thanks for joining us today on Grateful Goddesses. We invite you to visit our website, www.gratefulgoddesses.com, to access today's show notes as well as other helpful resources. Don't forget to leave a review. Until next time, stay strong and empowered to be a grateful goddess.